Good afternoon and welcome to another Inreach Field Experience webinar. Today we're going to be talking about Inreach best practices, and we have a checklist for everyone to help you learn about how to use your Inreach device. So to get started, my name is Chip Noble. I'm a product manager here at Garmin, and I like to think of myself as an avid outdoorsman. And for all of my friends and family, I am the planner of our adventures. And that is helpful, particularly for today, because we are going to be talking about best practices. Myself and others here in the Garmin team have put together our tips on how to set up an adventure, things to do at home while you're out in the backcountry, and then after. We've even included some non-technical tips about planning adventures. So we will talk about that today. So as I mentioned, best practices, and these are steps to help you get the most out of your Inreach device and your subscription, and even in case of an emergency. So we're going to look at what you might do before your trip, how to get your Inreach device set up and everything you do with your account at home, what to do during your trip, so that you have a successful adventure and get the most out of the system. Should there be an SOS, and I know many of you have listened in on our SOS webinar, and we have a lot of, we share a lot of details there. When Emily Thompson from the Garmin IERCC joins us, we'll recap some of the high level pieces from that. And then we'll conclude with some slides about what to do after your trip. There are some things we recommend when you've finished your hike that you do. We will recap here just a little bit on Inreach Technology for folks. And I know most people who have signed up are Inreach owners. They have devices, they have their plans, and are familiar with everything Inreach. But for those that might be new listening in, Inreach Technology, that is the series of devices that Garmin offers that take advantage of the Iridium satellite network that allows you to send and receive messages using their 100% global satellite network. And you can send and receive messages. You can also track your location, and you can share that location with friends and family on your map share page. Every Inreach device has a map share page that lets people follow along. Should you have an emergency, you can take advantage of that ability to send and receive. You can trigger an SOS that is transmitted to the Garmin IERCC, the International Emergency Response and Coordination Center, and they will receive that message and they will respond and they will ask for details. Is it a medical emergency, an equipment failure? And then they are your coordinator between local area search and rescue and yourself. So wonderful service provided by Inreach and the Garmin IERCC. There are some additional functions or features of the device. You can request a weather forecast, both land and marine. You can use the handheld GPS capabilities to navigate along a route or to a waypoint. You can use it for planning and that sort of thing in the field. You can also pair your Inreach device with a companion app on your smartphone. We're going to look at the EarthMate and Explore apps and how you use those with your phone connected to the device. Really powerful tool for messaging, navigation, and an emergency for safety communication. And then the last piece is the Garmin Explore website, which we all use for setting up our account, managing our devices, and also for planning our adventures. There's a note there at the bottom. All of our Inreach devices require an active satellite subscription. That's an important piece. We're going to look at making sure you test that subscription before you get into the field. A good way to make sure that you're ready to go into the backcountry. And then an additional note, this is an important one. There are some countries in the world that don't actually allow satellite communication devices. It is the responsibility of all of us as users to research that for our upcoming bucket list adventures so that we know what the regulations are, and we're using everything according to the regulations where we're traveling. So a little about Inreach. Now let's take a look at what to do before we go on our trip. And that is, we're going to start with the Explore website, and that's explore.garmin.com. And the important things to do on the website are to first to confirm that your account information is all accurate and up to date. And this is important because this is how the Garmin IERCC will access your contact information in case of an SOS. The important step there is that you want to confirm that your Inreach device has an active satellite subscription. And you see here in the screenshot, you go to the Explore website. You look at your plans and devices tab, and then you can see, will tell you the plan that you have active, whether it's safety, recreation, or expedition. You can review your plan details. And remember, you do need to have an active satellite subscription for the messaging tracking and SOS features. Once you have confirmed that you have an active plan, you want to make sure that your contact information is up to date. That is one of the ways that the Garmin IERCC will reach out. First, they message your device to interact with you in the field. They will also look to reach out to the device owner in case they can reach you by another means. And then from there, the other important piece is to make sure that your emergency contacts are up to date, because the Garmin IERCC, as Emily mentioned in our SOS webinar, they use multiple means of communication to try and update local area search and rescue with as much information about the user as they can. And one of those sources is your emergency contacts. So they'll reach out and ask if they have any trip details, any itinerary information. We're going to look at that in a few slides about how important it is to share your plan with your emergency contacts so that if something happens, they can communicate that additional information to search and rescue. So remember, the Garmin IERCC, they're talking with you, they're talking with your emergency contacts, they're watching your tracking information, and they're relaying all of that to search and rescue to try and facilitate a very positive outcome in the emergency. Another important piece of this is updating your emergency notes. We talk about this a lot. That is a space where you can type in details before you go on your trip. So you could put in things like, you have a bee sting allergy, or, for myself, I have type O negative blood. So I put that in there so that if an emergency happens and it's a medical emergency, the responding local area search and rescue has that information and can plan accordingly. And then I've mentioned this already, the Garmin IERCC reaches out to emergency contacts. So update your contact information, your emergency contact information, and your emergency notes. Do all of that before you head out. And then you can check the box on our checklist here. So we have confirmed our account information. Additional things to do before you go on your trip that are related to the Explore website. You want to review your preset and quick text messages. We talk about this a lot. These are the messages that you can use to quickly send a message to specific friends and family. Preset messages, you get 3 of them for the device. It's a pre-canned message that you write ahead of time, and you specify who's going to receive it. So for myself, I will use, I'm checking in, everything's okay, and I have a set group of people that receive that. These are really nice messages because they are included in all of the plans, whether you are a safety plan user, a recreation or expedition plan user, and you can send an unlimited number of these messages. They don't count against your custom message allocation. So 10 messages with safety, if you can send unlimited presets, it's a really nice benefit for the system. Quick text messages are similar, except they are a little bit longer. They're a custom message you can create ahead of time. You can have up to 20. You sync them to the device. They do count as a custom message, but as you see right in the title, you can select it so you don't have to type it. So it's a very quick text message to send. I use a particular message. I will choose, got your message. I'm hiking right now. I'll reply when I have more time. I use that because I like friends and family to know at least that I received their message and I'm responding to them. I would rather they got that message than they wondered, gosh, why hasn't he replied? It's been 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. But if I'm traveling, it just gives them reassurance the message was delivered and I responded. So review your presets in your quick text, and you can check the box on that. Additionally, you want to review your personal contacts. This is important because if you're using your device in standalone, it needs to, without a paired smartphone, then it needs that address book so that you can send messages to the friends and family you want to communicate with while you're out there. That's the only way for the device to know about them. Now, as I alluded to, if you are paired to your smartphone, it can actually access your contact list on your phone, which is very beneficial. But for the GPS Map 60 series, the Montanas, those users that have a standalone device, you want to make sure you've updated your contacts. Check the box there. Additionally, on the Explore website, you can plan your adventure. We've talked a lot in different webinars about this, but at a high level from the Explore website, you can go to the map page. You can choose the new waypoint or the create route option. And as you see here in the screenshot, you can create little waypoints for the parking lot or the summit of Mount Washington. You can draw the route, create the trip that you're going to go and explore. You can even create a collection, which is organizing those waypoints and routes into a little folder. You can use that for syncing, that sort of thing, but it's part of the planning process. You can check the box there. This is a really important feature that I try hard to communicate to people. Hopefully all of you have found and are aware of your MapShare link. This is an important feature because this is how you communicate with your friends and family, how you let them follow along and participate. I mentioned that specifically because I have lots of friends and family who may not be able to join me on an adventure, may not be able to even consider some of the climbs or the bike rides or that sort of thing that we all might take part in. By using MapShare, they can follow along. They can be part of your adventure. They can use your MapShare page to see your breadcrumb trail. They can also select you and send you a message. They can encourage you while you're out on your adventure, or just kind of keep tabs on how things are going, see that you're still making progress. So that MapShare link is in the social section of your Explore site. And definitely, if you haven't found it, please go take a look for MapShare and utilize it. It's a great tool. And just a quick note, you can set a password. You can specify whether someone's actually allowed to send you messages. You may want to just use it for tracking and for updates. And you can kind of control the impact on your data plan, but very powerful feature, MapShare. Check the box. Some additional resources for people, and we won't spend a lot of time, but this is for folks looking for more details. Support.garmin.com is a great tool. Lots of manuals, articles, frequently asked questions, all put out there. Go to the support site, type in the name of your product, and you'll see these lists of additional resources. We have some additional webinars I've alluded to, definitely worth checking out. The Inreach Core Features webinar does a deep dive into the things that I might be touching at a high level. Setting up your device, planning your trips, all of those things are in that webinar. And then the last one is something we like to talk to people about. We've created the ability to just check on the status of the Explore ecosystem, and that's in the upper right-hand corner of the Explore website. There's a little status, and if you tap on it, and it will show you usually a nice green bar showing you everything's going well. But that sometimes people have questions about how things are going, and you can get that information on the Inreach status page. So from here, we talked about the website. There's another component that people should keep in mind and make sure they have for the beginning of their trip, the planning, and that is the companion app for your mobile device. And so we have a couple of different versions of our companion app, the EarthMate app and the Garmin Explore app. And this really, a lot of people will ask, well, what's the difference between the two apps? And it really is about the device that you have and which app is compatible with that device. The EarthMate app is the app that was available back in the DeLorme days. Some of you have the older DeLorme devices. It also works with the early Garmin Inreach devices, the Inreach Explore Plus, the SE Plus, now the Mini. We've also created a new version of that app. It's called the Explore app that works with the GPS Map series. It works with the Montana series, the Alpha 200i. But it does the same thing. They are about messaging, tracking, and safety. They are about device management. They are about downloading a map, seeing your user data, and using it for navigation when you're out in the field. So make sure that you install the app. It's available for Apple phones and for Android. Once you've installed the app, it will take you through some steps we're going to look at in a second, but definitely make sure you get the companion app. Once you have the app, you want to pair your Inreach device to that app. There are very good workflows and instructions in the EarthMate and Explore apps telling you how to pair the device, how to put your device into pairing mode, get them connected through Bluetooth, and have everything ready. So all of this before you go, piece that we're talking about, this is the homework before you get to the fun of the adventure. But with a little bit of careful planning ahead of time, you can go and do, and we'll talk about the homework assignment, is the walk the dog through the park, low risk, and you get to make sure everything's working well. Install the app, pair your Inreach device, and then check to see that the content's synced correctly. You see here the Explore app and the EarthMate app. These are showing content that was planned on the website ahead of time, now showing up correctly in the Explore and EarthMate app. You see the waypoints, you see the breadcrumb trails, the courses that were created. You just want to check to make sure things have synced from the website to the app correctly. And then the other important piece, every now and then I have a tough conversation with a customer who forgot to download the maps before they went on the trip. If you planned your waypoints and your routes, usually that review step will tell you, because you'll see it just a tan background, and that's a clue for you, as well as the large orange button that says, get maps at the bottom of the map page. Tap on that, follow the workflow for downloading maps, lots of map options, topographic maps, aerial image, USGS, quad sheets, great variety of maps. There's never just one map that you should have for your hike, lots of options. Just be sure that you download those. And then you'll have your mobile app set up and ready to go. Once you have that set up, the next part that you want to look at is your Inreach device. So we've covered account creation on the website, companion app setup, and syncing with your phone. And then you want to make sure that you have synced the content from the phone down through to the device. And there are additional instructions for this on the Explore website. I encourage people to use the EarthMate app and the Explore app to sync their waypoints, tracks, routes, that sort of thing, down to the device. And if you look at the devices page in the Explore app or My Inreach on the EarthMate app, it will tell you if the device is connected. That's a very positive thing. You look for that before you head out into the backcountry. Just make sure it's connected. And then you get a little sync status. And when the sync is finished, you can do a quick review on the device to make sure your waypoint list is populated and your courses or your routes are there. And then you know that you're ready to go out on your adventure. You can check the box. Additional steps with your device, and this is a new piece that we've added since the last time we made this presentation, and that was around charging your Inreach device. A lot of people ask, how can I get the best battery life out of my device? So we've put that in here. By default, the device is set up for 10-minute tracking, and you see the different battery durations, whether you're the Inreach Mini with 90 hours or out, the GPS Map 66i, 35 hours. That's with that 10-minute tracking turned on. If you don't enable tracking, then you get even longer battery life because it's just doing, listening for messages. But with the 10-minute tracking, 90 hours. Now, for people looking to do the tracking but have the best battery, we talk about expedition mode, or sometimes some devices refer to it as extended tracking. But that idea that there is a configuration for the device that does a handful of things. It turns off high detail logging. It does turn off Bluetooth, so it's not connected to your phone anymore. Turns off the backlight, but it does give you these really nice tracking numbers. Switch over to that 30-minute tracking setting. You can really extend the battery life of the device. And so I mentioned that for people who are doing multi-day trips, they're hiking the Appalachian Trail or some of the other national scenic trails in the country. And so it's very beneficial to know about the correct settings to change, because then you can leave your device on. And remember, well, we'll see it in the next slide. The most important detail is you must turn your device on when you start your trip for it to work well for you. So up to 90 hours at 10-minute tracking, up to 24 days at 30-minute tracking in expedition mode. Hold on to that in the back of your mind as you think about configuring your device. And we can check the box on charging. Whoop, one more. Oh, sorry, this is a good point. If you need additional power, and for myself, I carry a portable power bank, and that allows me to do things like connect my Inreach and my my cell phone, and I can charge them while I'm at the the AMC hut for an overnight. They charge up while I sleep. In the morning, I turn them back on and I go about my hike. And I can even bring a portable solar charger, a solar panel, and I can clip that to my backpack, and I can recharge the power bank while I hike. So I have really, it's for all intents and purposes, I have autonomous power at that point, and I really could be on the month-long or multiple-month Appalachian Trail hike with that system. So keep in mind the benefits of external solar and power bank charging when you're on a long trip. Then you can check the box. So more about before your trip, one of the things we tell people about is to test these features. And there's a test feature on each of our devices. And what that does is it sends a round trip message from your device to the Iridium satellite, and then it sends a message back down, and you get this very reassuring check mark, green, good to go check mark, and that tests your subscription. Just make sure that the device is working well. We do have the ability for you to suspend your subscription, and if you do that, you have to remember to reactivate and also test to make sure that everything's working. The key to this entire before you go piece is to set everything up and run your test before you go so that you know everything's working, so you can check the box there. Some quick reviews on how to use your Inreach device. There are some key features that we know you'll want to take advantage of when you're out there. Never hurts to run through those if you haven't used the device in 6 months because you're out of season. When the hiking season comes back around, you want to know how to request a weather forecast. There's a weather page. You just choose to update your forecast. You can choose premium or basic forecast, marine or land-based forecast. So walk through that process. Start and stop tracking. This is a very useful feature because this is how your friends and family follow along. I also would encourage people who have the recreation or expedition plan to go into settings and choose the auto start tracking. That is a great feature. It means all you have to remember is to turn the device on, and then it automatically starts tracking. I use that. I encourage it. How to trigger an SOS. This is, again, we covered a lot in our SOS webinar, but to trigger an SOS, you unlock that SOS door. You flip it open and you press and hold until you see the SOS countdown timer. That's the only thing you have to wait for. Once you see the countdown timer, you can release the button and know that after that 20 seconds, an emergency message will be sent to GEOS Search and Rescue. How to navigate to a route. This is navigate to a waypoint or follow a route. You choose the route from the routes list. You choose the waypoint from the waypoint list, and there's a go button or navigate button. You choose that, and you will see this nice compass, or you'll see a breadcrumb trail, a route highlight on the map where your breadcrumb trail is, and you can follow that to your destination. These are, again, important things to practice while you're at home before you are out for your bucket list adventure. But you can plan everything as though it was your bucket list adventure. It just happens to be walking the dog in the in the park, and I encourage you to do that, and even to bring in a trusted friend, and say, hey, I'm going to walk my dog, but I bought this new Inreach system. I'm going to send you a message. Please reply. When you receive the message, you can understand the whole system. They're even a little they're more in the loop for what to expect when you do go for your bucket list trip. So navigating to a route or a waypoint. And I got a little ahead of myself, but composing and sending a message, that's what you would test with that friend. Send them a message. Do it from the app. Do it from the device. Test all the different ways that you might want to communicate with someone. Practicing ahead of time takes all the surprise out when you get into the backcountry. And then you can check the box. Wonderful. So we've included some additional tips that aren't really specific to Inreach, but we thought that that would be important for people. Again, I lead trips here with the Garmin Outing Club. There are a bunch of us that work on these webinars that wanted to include additional content. Research your trip location before you go out. There are always special terrain situations or water locations if you're doing a multi-day hike and you need to have your water sources. Research all of that before you head out. Double check the weather conditions. You want to make sure that you're aware. You don't want to get caught unaware, off guard for when storms or that sort of thing. And then certainly check out for local rules and regulations for hiking or your activity. And as I mentioned, jurisdiction about the use of satellite communication. So research before you go out so that you know what to expect on your trip. Also prepare your gear. This is a great picture here from Lucy Bernard, an Inreach user, and her story is on our Garmin blog. She took a nice picture and you see the Inreach Explorer Plus there in the middle. Small device, but hopefully you can see it. And make sure you can use all of your gear, whether it's your white gas stove or all of your cooking equipment, or double check that your tent poles are all working properly. But definitely want to make sure you review all of your gear, not just your satellite communication device. And then check the box there. And then the last piece is train and practice for your trip. Make sure that you are honing your craft as you see this group of adventurers here learning, taking a refresher course on basic mountaineering and ice climbing skills. We're testing an ice anchor there. And so you want to improve your knowledge, always building your knowledge so that when you go out on your trip, you're well prepared. Very good. Additionally, this is that map share that I was talking about. Before you go out on your trip, you want to make sure you share your plan. And so part of that is sending your collection, what you planned, your waypoints and your routes, sending those to MapShare, and then sharing that MapShare link with friends and family, in particular your emergency contacts, making sure they know your trip itinerary so that if something happens and emergency Garmin IERCC needs to contact them, they can say, oh, well, we know their trip itinerary, and the Garmin IERCC can see your MapShare content and be able to see what your plan was. So you can check the box on that. I mentioned check the weather forecast previously. One of our Garmin associates is a picture, Dana, who helps with webinars. This is her husband on Mount Washington, and you can see the first slide with the bluebird sky and the sun. That was taken just a few minutes before the second picture, which shows the clouds and the snow rolling in. It moves that quickly in some parts of our country. So definitely double check your weather forecast, and even you can use the Inreach weather forecast during your trip. Check the box there. We have some additional resources for everyone, certainly online articles, forums, courses. You can learn a ton from websites like rei.com or Backpacker. And that last note there, don't forget your local clubs. You saw in the previous picture, that was a training session that we scheduled with one of the guide shops in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, and they're really informative. It's a great way to come together and learn with friends, and again build your skill set and do that using your local club or shop. Excellent. So when you're on your trip, these are the things that we'd like for everyone to do. And you notice here the most important thing, and the one that I'll get on my soapbox just for a few seconds, please turn on your Inreach device when you start your trip. We can talk again about battery life and conservation of battery and trying to alleviate the stress of worrying about having enough battery. But if you don't turn on your Inreach device and something happens while you're out there and you're for some reason unable to get to the SOS button or declare, if your device is at least turned on, then and you're tracking, then we see your last location within 10 minutes. If you weren't tracking, the device will at least be checking in, listening for something like a friend or family member to send a locate request. You can send a locate request from MapShare or from your Explorer website, and the device will automatically respond with your location. But you have to turn the device on. We hear stories at times of people who've had bad experiences just because they forgot to turn the device on. So that's the most important piece. Number one, check that when you go out on your hike, turn the device on. Wait for the Inreach device to acquire a satellite. That's another important piece. You may have, like for myself, I did all my planning here in Maine, but my bucket list adventure was in California. I'm gonna go climb Mount Whitney. That's a long distance, and it takes a little bit of time for the GPS device to acquire satellites in a new location. I don't want that to happen when I have an emergency and I take my device out and I turn it on. I want that to happen before, while I'm at the trailhead and everything's fine, and I'm just let it get that GPS fix. So check the box on that one. I've mentioned turning on tracking. That's an important thing because it is automatically sending my location every 10 minutes to my MapShare page and to my Explorer website. And if an emergency happens, the Garmin IERCC has access to my breadcrumb track line. I encourage people to turn on tracking. I realize that it's not included in the safety plan. At least turn the device on in the safety plan, and maybe send a check-in message every now and then with updates to that. But tracking for people in recreation or expedition. Send a message to a friend or family. Let them know you're starting your trip. That's pretty straightforward. You're out for a great adventure. Let them be part of it by sending them a little message. It also lets them know you've started. We're going to talk about messaging when you finish. And share your MapShare link. That's how everyone is going to follow along. And sometimes you want them to participate and send you encouraging messages. Other times you just want to give them the ability to do a quick check-in and make sure you're progressing towards your goal and everything seems to be going well. Great. So now let's talk about what to do during the trip in terms of positioning the device. A lot of people ask, how do I carry my Inreach? The key is to have that antenna, the helical antenna at the top of an Inreach Explorer Plus or a GPS Map 60 series. You want that pointing up to the sky. You don't want it turned around with the radome pointing down at the ground. It's broadcasting towards the ground. Keep it pointing up. That is the best position. You can put it in a backpack. You can put it in a pocket, so long as it's not a metal container. The canvas of your backpack, it will transmit through, no problems. Really, anything you're carrying. The only thing to keep in mind is that orientation, because you want the antenna pointed up, and sometimes if it's in your backpack, it can flop around and get shuffled and end up pointing down. So I put it in my top pouch, and I usually have so much stuff in there that it doesn't move around very much, but be sure to keep an eye on the orientation. And then we do tell people, make sure you can reach the device in case of an SOS emergency. You see the picture here, it's located on the backpack. The shoulder strap, that's a good spot. I see some people will carry smaller devices in a shoulder pocket or on a sleeve pocket, that sort of thing. Keep in mind, if you have a Garmin Instinct wearable or a Garmin Phoenix, watch, those devices can connect to an Inreach device. There's a whole line of compatible devices, but then you can declare the SOS rate from your wrist, and it is paired to the Inreach device, so you can remotely trigger an SOS. Some cool additional tools from Garmin. And then the last piece is to make sure that you tether the device. We have a lanyard that is available with Inreach. It's not really to hang it around your neck like my badge lanyard. It's more to tether it to your backpack so that if you're climbing and you're halfway up the mountain and you pull your Inreach device out to send a message and you bobble it, it doesn't fall 1,000 feet down the mountain. It just dangles from the tether and you can pick it up and say, phew, it's a good thing I put that tether on. So check the box for that. And I've said this a bunch, but you want to try and keep the device positioned with a clear view of the sky. That's the key. And we mention it here because maybe you're hiking up the mountain and you're bent over working hard and you got the device on your shoulder strap, but you're facing down and into the mountain. You may find that positioning it on your back, the back of your backpack gives it a clearer view of the sky. Usually you'll have some clues that it needs to be repositioned. Maybe it's taking a long time for your message to go out or something like that. But the nice thing about that is the device does cue the message. It doesn't just try 3 times and stop. It knows, because Iridium has a message delivery confirmation, it knows the message hasn't gone out. So it will send it. And if it doesn't go out, it'll wait and it'll try again. It'll continue to try until that message is sent. There is a nice note here about the priority. If you have a bunch of track points queued up and you try to send a message, that will jump to the front of the line. And if you have an emergency, that SOS message always jumps to the front of the line. It's the most important thing for us to transmit. So just keep that in mind. Messages are queued and delivered in a priority. Position the device accordingly. And if you feel like you've gone for a while and you want to just see if anyone has sent you a message, you can use the mail check feature, and that will initiate a mailbox check, and the device will look to see if there are any incoming messages. And we check the box on that part of our prep. During the trip, there are some additional things we recommend: updating contacts if your plan changes. In the past, we used to say, plan the hike and hike the plan, and don't deviate from your plan, because you couldn't communicate to your contact that you delivered your itinerary to. Well, now you can. Now you can send a message from anywhere in the world and say, we're moving from plan A to plan B for some reason. Here are the details. They can respond. You can update them. You can use custom messaging for that. You can send your presets in quick text. Some people use I'm running behind, but everything's okay. Those are great ways to give reassurance to the people following along. And you can do that again through the preset quick text and custom messaging that you set up on the website. This next bullet is one we didn't talk about a lot, but I want to make sure people know this. So hopefully you've all discovered your MapShare page. I talked to you all about that. You can send a message to your MapShare page, and what that does is it posts a little message bubble on your breadcrumb trail at your location, and you can say things like, I stopped here for lunch next to a beautiful waterfall. It was magical. And the cool thing is you can kind of journal a record of your adventure onto your MapShare page, so that when a friend goes to look at it, they're not just seeing your breadcrumb trail, they're seeing a little journal entry every however often you choose to send one, but it updates it. And so that's pretty cool when you think about putting your MapShare link onto your Facebook page, or your MapShare link out through Twitter or something like that. Now you have the ability to really share your adventure at a detailed level with everyone that you choose to give access to MapShare. So keep in mind that you can send a message to MapShare. Check the box. Wonderful. Some details pulled out of our SOS webinar with Emily Thompson from the Garmin IERCC. You want to keep your emergency contacts up to date. We covered that in the beginning. You want to share your plan with friends and family. You want to let them know if your plans change. Very straightforward, because the Garmin IERCC reaches out to them. And again, they want to get the most detailed information to local area search and rescue in the case of an emergency. We always reference or mention that we want you to recreate responsibly. There's a lot of talk about these emergency notification devices, the ability to declare an SOS and request assistance. People need to be responsible. They need to remember that the rescuers that will come to help you will encounter the same conditions that you do. So if it's the weather's really bad, they're going to have to come out and help you with that. So just keep that in mind. Use your best judgment when you have to trigger an SOS. I have shared in the past a great way to describe this that I heard from a presenter once, and that was to declare an SOS as soon as you are unaware or unsure of the outcome of the situation. You may find that it's a tough hike, and there's an injury, but you feel like you can manage the injury and you're going to be able to handle the process of getting help or getting out of the backcountry. Or maybe you even find that you're going to have to overnight because the weather changed, but you still feel like you're in control of the situation. as soon as you're unsure of the outcome, that's the right time to trigger an SOS, regardless of the detail of what you're experiencing. Emily added in our SOS webinar that you can reach out to GEOS, I said it again, reach out to the Garmin IERCC, even when you don't actually need help to combat. You want to just let them know you're experiencing a tough situation. They may be able to offer some advice, and just be aware of what you're experiencing. They like to have that information because they are going to dispatch the most appropriate resources based on all the details you've provided. It might be when you finally say, okay, I need help. It might be a helicopter like this situation, or they may actually dispatch a team of volunteers to hike in and help you with an extraction. But they will be able to give you that information when you reach out and make contact. So again, recreate responsibly, keep an eye on the weather, keep an eye on the conditions, and turn back. You know, don't feel like you always have to make it to the summit. That was something we talked about in the SOS webinar. And use your best judgment. If you're unsure of the outcome, use the SOS. It's better to declare that emergency than wait until things escalate and it becomes an even bigger situation. And then we've been talking about how you can message back and forth with the IERCC and any of your personal friends and family. You may want to reach out and share details with them. During an SOS is really more of the pieces we talked about. Keep your Inreach device elevated, a clear view of the sky. Check that. That's how you always want to use your Inreach device. Once an SOS is initiated, you can communicate with the Garmin IERCC using that two-way messaging, certainly. And we do say that if you're able to, we want you to respond to them. They may ask if it's equipment failure, is it a medical emergency? If you can't respond, they certainly still will continue to send help for that rescue. They don't need to hear from you, but it gives them more details to provide to search and rescue. And yeah, so they'll move forward with that response. Check the box there. And then the last detail, we do tell people stay at the location where the SOS was triggered. Your latitude, longitude coordinate is included in every SOS message. And so that's where they're directing search and rescue. We want you to stay there unless for some reason you can't, or the Garmin IERC directs you to move to a new location, but otherwise maintain that position so they go to the right spot. And now let's look quickly at things to do after the trip. An important piece here, after you have finished your hike, you've been messaging with friends and family, make sure you send them a message letting them know you're finished. It can be stressful or frustrating if you know somebody's in the backcountry and you don't hear from them, and you go and check their map share page, and the last update was a couple of miles from the finish or an hour, and it's just because they stopped messaging, turned their device off, and then jumped in the car. Send that message letting people know that you've finished your hike. Stop tracking when you get to your vehicle and allow any unsent messages to go out. You may want to just power the device off and get warm and get to dinner. But if you stop the tracking and allow those messages to send, it will complete your track line to the vehicle, let people who look at your map share know you're out of the woods, and it will also make sure any messages get out. And then another detail here, if your device supports activity tracking, make sure you save that activity so that your breadcrumb trail is nice and clean and doesn't get tacked on to your next trip, or otherwise have extra data in it. Very good. Last one, after you've finished your activity, make sure that you sync your Inreach device with the EarthMate app or the Explore app. That will take the data from your device, put it on the app, and then when you get back into cellular Wi-Fi, we'll put it up onto your Explore website. Very good. And the last piece, make sure that you review your trip information on the Explore website when you get home. You might find that some of the tracking data that you've gathered while you were on your hike can help you update your route planning for the next adventure that you go on. We can check the box on that one. Last slide here is just an additional resources slide we include in all of our webinars. You're familiar with the Garmin Explore website. That's where you go for all of your plan and account management, explore.garmin.com. We like to talk about the Garmin Support site, where you can see help documents, manuals. The team works really hard on on product videos and all of our prior webinars, support.garmin.com. And my favorite location, the Garmin blog, where you can go and read lots of great articles about Inreach users like yourselves on adventures, and some folks who have experienced an SOS are even kind enough to share their SOS stories with us. That is www.garmin.com/blog.